A lot of institutions have emerged. Indeed, they were created purposefully by that very constitution. And these include the National Assembly, the Senate, the County Assembly, among others. So it is important that even as these oversight institutions, oversight of the county executive is that of the County Assembly. And if the county assemblies have got problems of capacity, then as a country we need to address that problem squarely and head on, so that the Senate can continue to do its work, which is, of course, to protect the counties and their governments under the Constitution. How comes, as citizens, or as taxpayers, we can continue to pay tax religiously, and yet we allow a very small fraction of the populace to misuse these taxes? Firstly, ensure that the oversight institutions are working optimally, they are capacitated adequately, and they are operating transparently. And secondly, ensure that these audit reports, once they are examined by the assemblies, the County Assembly, the National Assembly, that proper recommendations are derived and that follow-up actions are taken against, against those recommendations.
All right, now let's talk to the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee Chairperson, Opio Andai, on this. And Honorable Andai, thank you so much for joining us here on KTN News Center. Such a heartening figure that the Auditor General reports indicates that for the financial year 2016-2017, it reveals that 2.28 billion shillings for domestic travels were unaccounted for, a lot of money, and whereas 386.7 million was wasted on foreign trips.
Yes, Brenda, the figures can clearly speak for themselves. And I also want to clarify that this is not confined to the county assemblies only. This wanton wastage of public funds is happening almost everywhere, including the county executives, the national government, in the commissions, in the independent offices, all over.
And when you say it's...
So something seems not to be working right here.
And this also includes Parliament, because let me just give you a recent incident. Yesterday we saw a honorable member, posting on his social media, bragging of how 320 members of Parliament and some staff had gone to Burundi, and talking about the amount of money that was used. Don't you think Parliament is also failing Kenyans?
You must distinguish two things. Spending money which is budgeted for and accounting for it. And on the other hand, spending money which is either budgeted for or not, and not accounting for it. So we are more concerned with the money which is being spent and it's not being accounted for properly.
All right, but Honorable Andai, let's
That is the source of wastage.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about Parliament, for instance. And we have seen so many foreign trips that are being made by some members of Parliament, and it's being seen as a way of earning extra money.
Yes, every expenditure of public funds must be justified. And that's why, if you look at the report of the Auditor General, and indeed even the report of the Public Accounts Committee that I tabled in Parliament a couple of weeks ago, we are very concerned about wasteful expenditures. And it does not matter where these expenditures are being incurred from.
So when you talk about...
So we must, at all times,
Honorable Andai,
ensure that money is spent in a manner that adds value to the public here.
Okay, you've said that some of the expenditure that is being done in terms of foreign trips are budgeted for, but the question that is in the mind of so many Kenyans, are some of this budgeted foreign trips worth? Because look at recently when we had the World Cup, we saw members of parliament going to watch World Cup. They term it as benchmarking. Was that necessary?
That's why I'm saying that even if it is budgeted for, it must be demonstrated that the public is getting value for the money. Yes.
All right, let's talk about also talking about cutting the expenditure, and now when it comes to, you know, the operation of different government parastatals, and it looks like there's so many government parastatals that are performing the same function. Let's look at the Kenha. We look at also talking that you know, in terms of the road maintenance. Let's look at the Kenya Roads Authority. Some of these government parastatals are performing the same functions. So as a member of parliament in charge of, you know, keeping accounts of the public funds, what are you planning to do to ensure that we cut down on some of these parastatals that are there?
Yes, you will remember, Brenda, there was an attempt a couple of years ago to rationalize the number of parastatals. And indeed, a report, I think, was produced, but it was never implemented. Apparently, because there are forces which are resisting such rationalization. The only thing I want to say is that Parliament must be at the forefront in ensuring that wastage of public funds is checked. And if it will call for a parliamentary action in terms of addressing the number and mandate of these parastatals, so be it.
All right, lastly, and
I must also hasten to add that, yes.
Okay, just continue.
The Public Accounts Committee does not deal with the parastatals.
All right.
That is the mandate of the Public Investment Committee.
All right, and as we bring this conversation to an end, Honorable Wandai, you have been doing a thorough probe when it comes to, you know, public wastage at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. We're also seeing a lot of public wastage at the Kenya Pipeline Company. Kindly bring us up to date with the interrogation of the IEBC when it comes to public wastage as we wind up this conversation.
Yes, we have in the last 2 weeks or so been interrogating the accounts of the IEBC for the financial year 2016-17. A lot of things have come out and they're in the public domain. We are at the tail end of this inquiry, and we intend to do our report sometime in January next year. What I want to assure the public is that we shall objectively look at all the issues and produce a report with clear and specific recommendations that, if implemented, will be able to provide a proper way forward for the management of elections in this country.
All right. Thank you so much, Chairperson of Public Accounts Committee. That is the National Assembly Park Committee Chairperson, that is Upio Wandai, talking to us about